Guys, this is Nick. In the name of the FC Schalke and team, I want to congratulate you on your 100th episode. Thanks for supporting us in the US, and hopefully there will be many more episodes of your podcast in the future. Glück auf!
Ball still in play. Oh, what a goal! What a magnificent, absolutely stupendous strike from Kevin Kurani. Borovic through to Raul. Lovely chip by Raul. 4-1 Schalke.
Blau und weiß sein Leben lang. Hallo meine Leute. Willkommen zum das einzige Schalke Podcast auf English. That's right, folks. Welcome to episode 104 of the SchalkeMerica podcast. I'm your host, Richard Kharman. Joining me on the show, as always, is Jack Mangan. Jack, I'm always changing things up and messing myself up. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Thank you to our listeners for bearing with us on our unexpected 1 week hiatus. I went back from Wisconsin back to the Chicagoland area to grab some cold weather gear because winter had arrived in Wisconsin. It's 66 today, which is kind of strange in November. But anyway, ran into some issues at the apartment, had some water damage and everything, so I was delayed in getting back up to Wisconsin where all my podcast gear and my computer was. So I apologize about that, but we're back in the saddle and ready to roll.
We are back in the saddle, and I was busy as well. So we both had to take a little time off, but we are back, and we had 3 games during this whole time. We had played Stuttgart, Schweinfurt, and of course this past weekend with Mainz. So really, let's get off with the start with what happened at Stuttgart, I should say. Game started quick for us. The youngster Malik Thiaw gets a goal in the 30th minute, a wonderful header. Puts us in the lead going into halftime, 1-0. Great start by the team. Unfortunately for us, Salif Sane decided to stick his hand out to help out Stuttgart, apparently, and drew a penalty or caused a penalty. That led to a Gonzalez goal in the 56 minutes by the penalty spot. The game would end 1-1. I think in that game in particular, Jack, the Sane handball dominated the game. Well, I should say Frederick Renault, who continues to be our best player, probably dominated that game. But that handball, which is going to be a theme in this podcast, reared its ugly hand, I guess.
It did. We had a chance to grab our first win of the season, and unfortunately, that play cost us in the end, which has been a recurring theme multiple times this season with some unfortunate penalties given away by our center backs in particular at times. But if I remember correctly, I think that first half against Stuttgart was at that point, I think, the best half of football we had played. Not just because of the goal, but I thought we looked significantly better, which was promising too, because Stuttgart's had a decent start to the season. They're in the top 10, I believe, at the moment still. Nice goal by Thiaw. I mean, good delivery, great header. What are your thoughts on him overall so far in the couple appearances that we've seen him, obviously with Ozan Kabak being suspended?
Some moments of a lot of potential with him. You see things and you're like, okay, I like what I'm seeing. He has some moments where he stands up to the ball defensively, but then there's other moments where he looks like he's young and he's making unnecessary plays or I guess naive plays, and he's not used to. So I think that'll come with time, but we've seen a lot of upside from him. Obviously, the goal, I mean, he probably has just as many goals via header as Nastasic does, who's been here forever. But he's had some good and some bad. But I've been impressed with him, and it's someone who I want to see more of for sure. How about you?
Yeah, I think that's a fair appraisal overall. It definitely has had some sketchy moments here and there, but I think for his age and relative inexperience, he's come into the team in a moment of need and looked relatively convincing. I think you would probably say he looked better than Stambouli did, certainly, in the small sample size that we've had of both these players this season so far. And obviously the offensive contribution there against Stuttgart is a positive as well. But that made me feel better in the sense that we know that if we have an injury to one of these guys, as has been the case quite frequently over the past couple of seasons, we've had a lot of issues with staying healthy back there, that he can slot in and do a job and not be, some massive liability for us. So that was definitely a positive.
And I think the game overall was a positive for us. Obviously, at the time, Stuttgart were in 5th place, and so it's obviously a top half-table team. And we played them pretty well. Like you said, first half was really excellent, I thought. Second half, Stuttgart started, getting more and more to the game, taking over. Obviously, as you would when you're losing in the game, you're trying to get back into it. You're going to start dominating possession. But I thought Frederick Renov was played brilliantly, had some great saves in that game. He's had since he's been with us, I think he's making great saves after great saves in every game. So he's really keeping the team in it, and I think it's going to be hard. Even if we wanted to keep him, I mean, other teams are going to start seeing what he's doing for Schalke, and he's going to be a hot commodity, I think, come end of the season.
I believe he just got called for Danish international duty, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I don't know how often he was getting called up to the senior team before, but certainly is at the moment. And I wouldn't be surprised if his performances in a Schalke kit have had something to do with that. Yeah, he's been great overall. I think he made some big saves in this Mainz game as well, which we'll talk about. The one thing I did find interesting from the Stuttgart game was just that I felt like the reaction to that draw online was significantly more negative than the reaction to the Mainz draw. I thought the Stuttgart game was a step in the right direction and a positive, and I was feeling okay about things after that. And I was a little bit, especially considering how well Stuttgart's played so far this season. I was slightly more frustrated with how the Mainz game went, given the level of our opponent. And I felt like people were overwhelmingly positive about this one just because they were blaming everything on the official, which fair enough. But anyway, the point is we've gotten points in 3 of our last 4 Bundesliga games. Now, still no wins, which is the main thing, and endlessly getting draws, mixed in 50-50 with losses is not a winning formula, and that's going to see you in a bad part of the table come the end of the season. But the point is we've stopped that massive skid that we were on. And even though we may be treading water to some extent at the moment, you're seeing things slowly turn around. So obviously we need to capitalize that and make sure that gets realized, because otherwise it's false hope. But I do think that Manuel Baum has demonstrated that he's calmed the team down a little bit, and is slowly making progress. And I love his active coaching on the sideline. Can't always understand what he's saying, but you can hear him constantly. He's not sitting on the bench. He's off his feet on the side, giving instruction, coaching, trying to, teach these guys and turn things around. And I really appreciate that about him so far. Yeah,
and it's funny that what you said about the general consensus of the reaction between Stuttgart game and the Mainz game, because I had the opposite reaction almost, maybe not quite to that extent, but I definitely thought it was a positive what they had against Stuttgart. It was a better team, a by far better team, and we played toe to toe with them. We earned that point. I thought we could have came away with a victory. Obviously, the handball, which has become a theme again tonight. If we figure that out, maybe we have a better chance of getting results going down the line. I like your take about maybe just taking our defenders and tying their hands behind their back or something, because it seems to be in the wrong place at the wrong time or at the right time, depending how you look at it. But yeah, if we had not much time to think about that game because we had to go on to against in the Pokal, our first matchup in the Pokal against Schweinfurt, the team who we thought were going to play originally. Then it got changed, and then it went back to the Schweinfurt. So the game did not start out well for us. Obviously, we don't have much confidence, and things did not help in the 37th minute. Toman gets a goal, a move against us. We talked about Malik Tiao, the good and the bad. This is one of the bads, one-on-one against Toman. He makes a nice move and gets the goal past Ralph Fairman, 1-0 early in the game, and you're thinking, okay, here we go. Where's the confidence? But 2 minutes later, Schalke would respond. The aging veteran Ibisevic gets a goal in the 39th minute, makes it 1-1. The continuation of the attack by Schalke. Alessandro Schoff, he would get a rebound goal in the 44th minute to make it 2-1 going into halftime. That's a good way to react after being down a goal or late in the first half, I should say. But when we thought we maybe get a little comfortable, we gave away a penalty. Ceane again with giving away a penalty. This time, though, Fairman comes up big, makes a huge save. That ended up being probably the game changer for us because had they tied it, who knows where it would have gone. A couple minutes later, or several minutes later, I should say, that eventually Schalke would get some control. Alessandro Schoff in the 81st minute would make it 3-1, and then to cap things off, Benito Raman in the 86th minute makes it 4-1. Schalke win again. Another penalty, a stupid penalty by the defense that could have been a game changer. Luckily, Ralph Fairman, our legend of a goalkeeper, saved the day for us in that one.
So I didn't watch this match, and it's the first competitive Schalke match that
that's
I
why we
watched
won.
Yeah, probably. It's the first game I haven't watched in a number of years. I was having issues finding it on the day online, and then I didn't go back. But yeah, I'm kind of glad I didn't at least live, because the first 20 something minutes of that game, from what I could tell by the conversation on Twitter, I mean, I would have just hated that. Because it looked like it was not going well for a while.
A fourth tier team, by the way.
Yeah. Especially, that first goal that they scored, a little bit too easy. I mean, not to be mean to these guys in terms of what their quality is, but disappointing that they're walking through a Bundesliga defense like that. But ultimately turned it around and got the result that you needed. And it doesn't matter who the opponent is, doesn't matter what competition it is. We'll take wins wherever we can get them at the moment. We'll take goals wherever we can get them at the moment, because the goals in particular, I feel like you feel it with the team every time they score. It just lifts them up so much at the moment, more than it typically would, just because they've been so short on them recently, and that belief isn't there that they can really do that. And I feel like if we can just kind of keep that going, eventually they're going to see some more confidence in the final third in front of that. So positives overall.
I agree. People want to say, oh, it's a fourth tier team, but goal's a goal. We ended our winless streak. How many months was it? So we've got to win. A win's a win. I don't care. It'll breed any kind of confidence we can get, and we'll talk about going to the Mainz game, how that affected. But like I said, I'm gonna take the win. I thought Alessandro Schopf had a pretty good game overall, 2 goals in this one. And Ralph Fairman, what more can you say? I mean, saved a huge penalty for us that could have saved us from embarrassment, really. So we win 4-1 into Pokal. Our next matchup is against Ulm, I believe. I think I saw the draw yesterday was, so I believe that's our next opponent. But before we get into that, we did have another matchup, and this one is, of course, Mainz that we talked about. We can get a little bit deeper into this. Let's get into the starting lineup first against Mainz. So Mainz came out with a 4-2-3-1, Zentner in goal, and then they had a back four of St. Just, Kilian, Niakate, and Brozinski. In the 2 holding midfield positions, you had Barrero and Latza, and then the 3 attacking midfielders of Burkhardt, Fernandez, and Botius. Up top, of course, you had the big man Mateta. We came out with a 3-1-4-2, Jack. I mean, I guess depends how you look at it. In goal, Frederick Renov, again, getting the start in the Bundesliga. With back 3 this time, we had Kabak, the return of him, with Sane and Nastasic. The holding midfielder position was Omar Mascarell, and then the attacking options were Ludwig, Ochipka, Harit, and Alessandro Schopf. And then up top, you had Mark Uth and Paciencia. So what'd you make of the lineups for both of these squads going into this one?
Yeah, so Schalke, I mean, there's a number of different ways that you could try to label the formation. And it's definitely fluid and changes in different phases of the game. I think the one that would be useful for this particular match is sort of like a 3-3-2-2. So you have the back 3, and then you have the wing backs making another bank of 3, with Mascarell being the deep midfielder, and then the 2 midfielders alongside him sort of form this like box with the 2 strikers. And that's kind of the shape that I noticed the most often, particularly going forward, and actually did some interesting things for us at times, which we can talk about later. But interesting to see Alessandro Schopf get into the midfield. I've been really skeptical of him as a central midfielder in the past. I don't think that's his best role, but he's kind of been lost in the wilderness, I think, in this team a little bit the last year or so. Like, he doesn't get that many minutes. He's kind of being moved around a little bit, and so it's difficult to kind of nail him down. I think you're right, though. I think that performance against Schweinfurt maybe, caught Manuel Baum's eye, and he wanted to toss him in there again. And overall, decent game from Schopf against Mainz, I think. So that was interesting. And then Mark Uth and Gonzalo Paciencia, which I think is the pairing up top that most people want to see, at least right now for a while, to really get a sense of what we have as we try to build going forward. So, good to see Ozan Kabak back in the lineup, and beyond that, I think fairly standard. The other thing you'd maybe say is maybe Bozduan or Ben Taleb or something like that, but
no Katucho again.
Yeah, I mean, not in the match day squad for the second consecutive game. Something's going on there. Don't know what it is. I mentioned the last time that we were on, I think that the game that we did see him, I did feel that he looked a little bit heavier. And I don't want to keep harping on that, especially because, I'm a man of considerable weight myself. I'm just saying, I'm wondering if he's maybe just not quite in the best shape at the moment, and that's contributing to it. I don't know what's going on. And you know what? I'm once again, as we've said a number of times on this podcast, we're not in training. We don't see what's going on behind the scenes. All we really see is what's happening on the field on match days. And so that's why when we see Katucha, we generally think that we see a spark on the field that we don't see from a lot of other people. But, that's, if we're being honest, that is, although it's an important, snapshot of what happens as a player, it's a small snapshot at the same time. Yeah. And that there very well could be a larger story in a larger context that's contributing to it. So I don't know. But the good thing is I think most people would say that Markut and Godzilla Paciencia they're hopeful that could be a caliber of striker for us that would at least make, the lack of inclusion of a Katuchu not as big of a deal as it was maybe last season, for example.
Yeah. And I think for sure, Mark Uth has come out to become one of our best players this season so far. Surprisingly, I think, because I think, many of us who've seen him in a Royal Blue kit and even Cologne before, that maybe he wasn't going to be the right fit for us, wasn't going to work out for us. But this season, he seems to take in a leadership role almost, I guess, to an extent, or put the responsibility of setting up the scoring or being the playmaker on his shoulders, and he's taken it well, I think, and has done well the last couple of games. Has scored some really fantastic goals, and we're going to get to the one here in a minute. But I think Paciencia, both of them really linked up well together. I do like Ibisevic's nose for goal, but Paciencia did some good things in this game, I thought. Previously, prior to this 3-game stretch, he maybe didn't do so great. Kind of got lost in the limelight, but I think he's recovered really nicely in these games, and confidence goes a long way, I think. And these two together probably is going to be the way to go. I agree, and maybe have Ibisevic come on as a cameo role to get some goals in or what have you. So I like that for sure. And it's funny, you're talking earlier about Alessandro Schulpf and kind of being the utility man, not knowing where he goes. I think, with the departure of Rustin McKinney, someone had to fill that void. So Schulpf had to take that role, I guess. I don't know, but let's get into the game.
And once again, Bozdogan Bentaleb could very well be in that position more often than Schulpf is over the course of the season. It's just it's a small sample size, but I think that's a fair point from you as well, that there is a massive void in the middle of the field now in terms of minute share. Yeah,
absolutely. So the game didn't start out very well for us at all. In the 4th minute, early in the game, Nastasic going, one of his hard tackles that he always goes for, was a little careless with his hand again, a recurrent penalty, and for sure a penalty. It's a handball. Early on, when I first saw the play, Jack, I thought it was a good tackle. He was there. Then I saw the replay. I saw the hand. I'm like, damn, they're going to call that. And sure enough, they did.
So I kind of disagree with you in the sense that I felt that it potentially looked a little bit worse live than it did on the replay. Here's my thing. In my opinion, I'm struggling with this one because let me say this. When there was the live broadcast, you heard the commentators at one point suggest that what the official was saying to Paciencia or somebody was that the foul was for the step that Nastasic made on the other player's ankle and wasn't actually because of the hand. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but if it is a handball, I hate that call just because, in my opinion, Nastasic just squared up and he's getting in position and he's not really moving that much. He's mostly in his zone of influence and he's getting ready to head this ball. And then the other player is more actively trying to penetrate that space and barrels into him. So, yeah, exactly. So the only is his arm up in the air in an unnatural position? Yes, but he's doing that because he thinks he's going to head the ball and then he gets hit. And then, the trajectory changes, and that's why. And I think it actually hits his head and then bounces onto his arm secondly, maybe. Correct. And once again, this is only because of the contact of the Mainz player, who I think if anyone got fouled, it's actually Nastasic in this situation, personally. Yeah. So, I don't know. Yeah, I hated this call, and it was such a gut punch that early in the match against this opponent, of all people, against Mainz. We're coming into this game knowing that we need to get a result against the bottom team in the table, and then to go behind on a questionable call from a penalty that early is it's brutal.
Yeah, and Jake is even asking, pre-VAR, would you think there's been a penalty? And I thought, pre-VAR, I don't. It sounds like Jack thought maybe it would have been a penalty. I don't think it would have been a penalty just from, the way I saw it. But, it's a 50-50 ball. Like you said, we both see it differently. And when you look at VAR, it's very, 50-50.
So I should clarify. I don't think that upon live viewing, I thought it was a penalty. I'm just saying I thought it did look worse live than it did. Because on the replay, to me, it looks like he's getting influenced by the other player. And I think the only reason that VAR took a look, maybe took a look at it, is because I think the player that was involved with Nastasic there was on the ground like injured from that play for a minute. So that pause in the action gave them another opportunity to look at it. And you'd like to think that they look at it regardless. But if that play had kept going on and there hadn't been a stoppage, who knows if they even go back and end up making that call.
Yeah, exactly. But they did make that call. Brozinski would step up and take the penalty, and he would score past Runov. Makes it 1-0 early on in the match. You saw the disgust on Baum's face when that went in. So you wonder how Schalke were going to respond. And I think they responded fairly well. They started to get back into the game a little bit more. And then in the 36th minute, a great location for where the free kick was. You had Mark Uth on one side, and you had, I believe it was Harit maybe on the other side, or Mascarell. I forget who the other one was, but they looked like they were in a position to take the kick because Uth was only a foot away, one step away. So you're thinking he's not going to kick this. He kicks it, and it was a beautiful free kick. No pace to it, but it was just perfectly placed past the keeper. Nothing Zentner could have done about it. 1-1, and again, Mark Uth making these goals, these nice, pretty looking goals, and you could see the reaction by the players when he scored. They jumped over him because they knew that goal meant a lot.
Yeah, it was a lovely strike, and it was taken with supreme confidence. I mean, once he got set, he didn't even look up to see the goal again. Like, he knew where it was, and he only took that one step forward. Like, it seemed almost as if like that was an area of the pitch where he's worked on these a lot and felt just like uber confident with where that foul happened to take place. Yeah. So yeah, great for him. And once again, any goal that the team gets is massive at the moment, but particularly the guys that we want to get up and running and firing goals regularly, Paciencia, Uth, for one of them to get a goal is a big deal too. And so that's been, I guess, one of the positives is, though, even though our offense isn't clicking on all cylinders, a lot of our goals actually have been coming from those two guys, which is a good thing.
Yeah, our strikers are actually scoring this year, right? So just when we thought we're going to go into halftime with a 1-1 draw, I don't know, man. This is more blatant of a penalty to me than the sausage one. Ozan Kabak, bro, I don't know what you're thinking. Totally takes on Mateta. I believe it was Mateta. Penalties called. Look at they go to VAR. They check it. It certainly is a penalty. He takes out Mateta. In my opinion, Mateta steps up, takes the penalty, gets a goal in the second minute of stoppage time. Your thoughts?
So I feel like I am in this particular game too. I was watching a very different game from a lot of other people. Because online I saw a lot of anger about the Kabak penalty, being that like Mateta just fell over and it was a flop or something along those lines. Disagree with that entirely. The second that ball gets played into him, you can see that Ozan Kabak isn't going to get there in time. And you could see that foul coming like a second and a half before it happened, and you're like, don't, and then he barrels into him. To me, it is a clear penalty. Yeah. And it's, we've seen Ozan Kabak make some pretty spectacular tackles in the box, and every time he does it, we get on the podcast and we're like, that was great, but it makes me nervous because, he's living dangerously. And that was one of those ones where, I mean, he wasn't, it wasn't a slide tackle or anything, but potentially a little bit over aggressive because, if he just bodies him up but doesn't knock him over, maybe you shift him out to the right. The combination of that and Runov cutting off the angle, difficult shot. Maybe he scores, but once again, a penalty is statistically like 75% scored every time. Yeah. And I think I would rather have him take a shot from open play than to give him those penalty opportunities personally. As we were discussing that, one of our viewers, Jake, messaged us about the Usitter. So going along with me saying that I feel like I was watching a different match than a lot of other people, I would like to take this opportunity about this Uth question to discuss Paciencia as well, because I want to clarify something I said online. I was calling for Paciencia to be subbed, and I called him Diet Bergstaller at one point during the match, which that was harsh. I take that. I would like to walk that back. My frustration was mostly with the way that Paciencia is being used in the offense, which is that I feel like too often we are playing long balls into him, those diagonal long balls into the corner, the kind of ball that Bergstaller would run down. And it's putting Paciencia in these like physical 50-50 battles that I don't think he's equipped to do that well with. And I don't think he makes good decisions when he's in those situations. He's gotten out of a couple of them, and a couple of them have resulted in opportunities. But personally, I think Paciencia would be more useful, not as the main target man, but using his clever movement in and around the final third to receive the ball off other people and be the one taking these shots. Far too often, he's the person that's bringing the ball into the final third and then dishing it off to somebody else. And I think that's kind of perverse, that we should try to change that.
So let's build off of that, right? So I agree with you in that sense, the way you're describing Paciencia, and also Mark Uth plays better as a second striker than he is a primary striker. So maybe the way to go, and though he's like 75 years old, Ibisevic, have him as a striker and have Paciencia and Uth behind him as the second strikers. Support them, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I like the combination work between Uth and Paciencia, but I agree with you that the way we're using him is not ideal.
Yeah, those long balls are an issue. The good thing in this game, though, is that we had a lot more width from the wingbacks. And like we've been talking all season, Ochipka hasn't gotten up the field enough, right?
Yeah.
And that's not entirely his fault. That's a process of the offense. We had a lot more of that width, which allowed the strikers to stay more central than they typically have and get crosses in and that kind of thing, which I think is good for the offense as well.
But to get back to Jake's point, this was a sitter. It was a nice play that Paciencia found Uth, and Uth should have scored 100%. Totally missed it. And when I saw that miss go in, I'm like, this is that kind of game. It's going to happen.
And I disagree.
Okay, well, that's fine. And he more than made up for it on the free kick, I think. But please,
absolutely.
But please go.
No, this is good because Richard, you and I agree on like every podcast about 95% of what we talk about. And so this is actually fun. Here's my thing. And this is I thought Paciencia was getting too much credit in this game. I think he played well. I think he did some things well. He had 11 losses of possession in the game, which is a problem. And then also, if you look at this particular play, he's coming in from sort of like the left wing position is where he's entering the box diagonally. He's setting himself up to be able to open up his hips to go far post or lay this off to Mark Uth to have a shot. If you watch this again, Paciencia takes a heavy touch at the decisive moment, which pulls him deeper into the box, into the gravity of the goalkeeper and the defender. At that point, he doesn't feel comfortable taking the shot. He has to play it out to Mark Uth, and he plays it like late and behind him. Like, should Mark Uth have done better? Yeah, probably. Could he have done better? Maybe. But this ball is not in his path of trajectory at all. He has to move like out of the way he was running to try to control it and get a shot off at the same time. And it looked like he was caught in two minds because of where the placement of the pass was. Now, if Paciencia doesn't take a heavy touch there, maybe he shoots, maybe he gets it to Uth in a better position. I think people were being, including the commentator of the match, was being way too hard on Mark Uth for that chance, personally. Okay. But yeah,
I think you're wrong, but no, I'm just kidding. That's fair. And I do agree with you. You know, the giveaways that Paciencia has, it's because he too often tries to go 1-on-1, 1-on-2 when he has the skill set, no doubt about it. But
he's doing step overs like he's Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, dude,
he's not there. You need to pick your moments when you do that. If you do it all the time, everyone's going to know you're doing it, and then they're going to stop you. And that's what happened. I agree with Jake that, we're hoping, or Garrett, that the return of Serdar after the break would be nice. And I agree because Harit hasn't been himself lately, especially the last 4 games or so. But yeah, Mark Uth made up for it, gets the free kick goal, a wonderful goal there. And then, like we said, Mainz get the goal, make the 2-1 going into halftime. It's a gut punch, really. But, we come out of the break firing all cylinders. Ozan Kabak gets the goal in the 49th minute. You think we're in this game, baby. But what? No, what? VAR's involved. VAR just hates Schalke this season, probably the last couple seasons. When you look at the VAR play, though, it was correct again. As much as VAR hates us, it's been right pretty much every time. And this hits his hand, unfortunately, and then he gets the goal. When you're watching it live, you don't see it. But when you see that replay, you're like, fuck, come on, man. And it's, again, to your credit, what you were saying before, like, if you're a defender, just put your hand behind your back and just play the whole game like that. Just tie yourself like that because, And Jake Barneau says he respectfully disagrees with you, Jack, on the Paciencia, I assume. So,
well, that's fine. I'm sure most people do. What I would suggest is just go back and watch that again and watch for the heavy touch that Paciencia takes right as he's going into the box and what that does to the timing of that play. And then ultimately Paciencia's decision making. Like I said, I think Uth could have done better. I think he was trying to move to the left to receive it and shoot it at the same time. He was caught in two minds, and that caused the issue. That late first half equalizer. The penalty from Kabak was terrible because we had actually been gaining momentum the 5-10 minutes before that after we equalized, and up right until that attack took place, it looked like we were going to score before halftime and go up 2-1.
Yep.
So that was really unfortunate. And then to then have that emotional lift right after of the Kabak goal, tying it up right away, and then having that taken away was brutal. And just once again, you're like, dude, Kabak, man, come on. But it's unfortunate for him because this has kind of been the thing for us for a while. Is if you look at everything else Kabak did in this game, played a great game.
Yeah.
He had 98% pass completion, won the vast majority of his duels, completed the vast majority of his dribbles, had some nice long ball, like, line breaking passes, like forward, played a very good game overall. But then he has the penalty and he has the goal disallowed. And it's like, and that's what you're left with. Yeah. Same thing with Salif Sané. We talk about how good he is as a center back, but then everyone, there's just those individual mistakes in like a 2-second window that cost us a goal or a point here and there. And it just, it's kind of hard to like walk away from these games knowing what to make of certain players at sometimes when the vast majority of the work they put in is solid work. And then there's just those couple moments that really can affect the outcome of a game though overall.
Yeah, and pre-Baum, I think when something like this happens, where we're trying to fighting the game, we get a goal, we think we're tied up, and then we lose it, and then our heads would drop. That didn't really happen. I mean, granted, Mainz put the pressure on us, and I think Frederick Renaud stood on his head really to keep us in the game. And then luckily for us, we started getting back into the game, and then we forced an own goal by St. Just in the 81st minute, 82nd minute to make it 2-2. But I think the ultimate of this past 3 games, or not even the past 3 games, but the last 2 games in the Bundesliga, is our best player continues to be, unfortunately, Frederick Renaud, because he's taking a million shots a game. And I don't know, as much as I love Fairman and even Schubert to the extent, I don't know if they're going to be saving us as many shots as he is. And I think his value is going through the roof this season with Schalke, obviously with the call-up with the Danish national team. He's been solid for us. He hasn't really made too many mistakes. Yeah, he's maybe had a fluffer one here or two, but for the most part, he's making excellent saves, Jack.
Yeah, he really has. A couple huge ones. And once again, actually, I think the 2 biggest saves he made in this game, or 2 of the biggest, came off of Salif Sané mistakes. One of them was basically a one-on-one with the keeper in the box. And he came out, made himself big, stopped it. That was off pretty atrocious defending by Sané.
And then the second save he had.
Which one was that? Was that later?
It was later against Mateta, I think it was.
There's the one where Sané fell down in the box way too easily, and they called it a foul, and I'm not convinced it actually was a foul on anybody. No, but yeah, that's been great. And then you said Fairman made that big save in the DFB Pokal, so if we can get some consistent and reliable goalkeeper play, that will be a positive for us for sure, as opposed to what we've seen over the past year and a half, 2 years or so.
I don't think goaltending has been our weakest link by any stretch. It's obviously the defense, I think. Midfield has been struggling as well. They haven't been able to keep the possession in some big games. Granted, you play in Dortmund, Leipzig, Bayern Munich, you're not going to have the possession, but you should still be able to hold possession, not just give it away aimlessly like we saw most of this season so far. But they've done better. Where are we going to put, Bentaleb or Bosduan, more importantly, because we're playing them out of position, it seems like, more often than not. Schalke is starting to come around, which is good. Ut is really coming around, really. He's been like our catalyst. Nice to see Rahman get a late goal in that Schweinfurt game. But there's some positivity there, I think, under Baum so far.
I want to shout out Mascarell in particular. I thought he was phenomenal against Mainz, especially in possession. His passing and his ability to shift, to distribute the ball, shift the angle, play a lot was very good in this game. And I feel like there's times where he's certainly capable of that, but I feel like there's times where he's just not quite as consistent in that aspect of it. And I really noticed that he really jumped off the screen in this match for me. Go ahead.
Must be something about these last 3 games, because I think I'm going to respectfully disagree with you. I think
that's fine.
I think in the first half I was so frustrated by Mascarell. Maybe just because I was watching him too much, I didn't watch him enough. But it seemed to me like he kept turning it over unnecessarily defensively when he's trying to transition into offense. Now he did some good stuff in this game. I'm not going to deny that, but I think it seems like the last few games, at least with him, he's done a lot of mistakes. And granted, the whole team has. But as someone who's in that position, someone who's a captain who's supposed to be leading by example, is making more mistakes than he should. But I still like him overall. I mean, he's probably better than anybody else we could put in that position. So,
yeah, no, I mean, I think the fact that maybe we're disagreeing is maybe is almost a better thing, because it might suggest there's a lot of different things to be looking at on the pitch now. There's more going on overall, so there's more of our attention being dragged to different areas, and maybe we're focusing on different things at different times and have different opinions as well.
Apparently, Gerd seen the same thing. He said Mascarell lost the ball before both penalties in this game. So, I mean, yeah, Mascarell has defense. It seems like with the times that I've noticed it is like when we transition from defense into offense.
Wasn't the second? Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say it always seems like he just gives away aimlessly at the wrong time and leads to some kind of counterattack really quickly on the other end, and we're not prepared for it. And it's always a good chance every time he turns it over. But like I said, he does more good than bad, for sure. for sure, but maybe it's emphasized to me that it's because I'm paying attention to him more so or not. I don't know, but I don't know.
Like I said, I may have been watching a different game this time around because I felt like I was definitely on the minority opinion on a lot of these things. I thought the second penalty came off of a goalkeeper clearance that was headed back into the line of play, and then that pass came off of that. I don't recall that being like a Mascarell loss of possession that immediately led to the attack. Maybe I'm mistaken.
No, you could be right.
I could be wrong. Anyway, I do want to shout out Manuel Baum though for how aggressive his substitutions were.
Yeah.
And maybe you wouldn't do that against a better team, but I do think it was the right decision. 2-1 down on the road against the team that's below you. It's I don't want to go doom and gloom yet, but if things don't improve, and I think they are improving, but if things don't improve, this is a relegation 6-pointer, this match. So it's an important match. Down, like I said, down 2-1. We saw substitutions before the 70th minute, and these substitutions were aggressive. You saw Skripski and Rahman come on, and then you actually saw Omar Mascarell get substituted off for Ibisevic, of all people. So he was just he was throwing his players on, and it ultimately got us that additional depth and width, and some of those crosses were coming in. That's where the own goal came from Skripski trying to reach Rahman, the two substitutes trying to connect. So I thought that was positive. We criticized David Wagner at times for just
wait until the 90th minute.
Yeah, it's like the 85th minute. The game's been going badly the entire time. He's just sitting there watching it and doing literally nothing to change it. I think especially when you have a new manager, getting as many guys into the mix as possible and letting them fight it out for those places, because they're going to be, you would hope they'd be especially motivated at the moment to prove their worth. So I think it's good.
Yeah, and it's something I noticed is that we talked about the growing chemistry between Paciencia and Ut. I think the same could be said between Ibisevic and Skripski. Now, granted, it was against Schweinfurt, but I thought Skripski played really well in that game, and he kept finding Ibisevic when he was on the pitch. And then we saw him at the end of this game where he did contribute, I think, offensively to help out with the late push. And oh, by the way, Mark Ut nearly had the game winner in this Mainz game. He had a great opportunity at the top of the box to go with his left-footed shot, and he skied it over the bar, unfortunately. I think if he had put that in, there would have been a great 3 points for us, and it could have led to some more positivity going forward. Granted, it's the international break, but still, overall, you got to be, at least with these last two games, not thrilled, but more content, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that right?
And that Paciencia miss is a good example of what I was talking about, in the sense that was a play where the ball comes in to a different player, and Paciencia makes a smart run off of that, kind of a late trailing run to the top of the box, and is able to receive the ball off of that and then, get a shot off for himself. And it's, not a well-executed shot, but that's kind of what I was talking about. Like, Ibisevic is an example of somebody who I think is more effective as more of a target man than Paciencia is. But if you're going to play in that partnership, oftentimes one of them kind of has to fill that role.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think I was definitely too harsh on Paciencia online as that game was going on. I was just kind of frustrated with how the match was going. But positives from Oop, positives for Paciencia. Not a win, and we need a win, especially against a team as bad as Mainz. But like I said, points 3 of the last 4. The team seems to have a plan. We're getting into the final third more consistently. The offense looks a little bit better.
Yeah.
The structure's there. It seems like the players understand where they're supposed to be and are in the right positions more often than not, with greater frequency than they were in the latter stages of Wagner's reign. So that's positive.
Yeah, I agree about that. That's definitely positives for us, and we need it going into Wolfsburg. Obviously, there's an international break, and then after that, we play against Wolfsburg coming out. So we need to have all the confidence we can get. There might be a friendly in there. I know there's definitely a Pokal match in between there. So we'll see how that goes. But I think with the 2 penalties we gave away in this game, what is that like now? 7 penalties against this season so far, or something crazy like that.
That many?
6 or 7. Yeah, I know it's 6 or 7 definitely for sure. And if someone's in the chat, they can correct it. But
I believe the broadcast commentator for the ESPN feed did mention that Kabak has given away a penalty in every game he started for Schalke this season.
Is that or a red card? So.
So if that's the case, I wouldn't be surprised. But
and ceane has been doing probably the other half, So
think how many goals we've given away in close matches that could have totally. Mainz, Stuttgart, that's 2 wins right there.
Yep.
It's frustrating.
It feels like every game we've given away a penalty, and it's really ridiculous. And I think the handball stuff in the box, the stupid penalties. This is what needs to stop. I think if Baum can figure out a way to get the defense to play smarter, not give away penalties, like we said, all Schalke needs to do. If they get beat by a team that just completely shreds them apart and scores a goal, good, okay. But if you you lose by yourself, you're giving away all these goals. That's not helping anything. And I think if they want to end this streak, if they want to start winning some games, they need to figure out defensively to stop doing the stupid penalties, keep your hands behind your damn back, and get it to the midfield and get it out of the box. I mean, Renault can only do so much.
Football really is that simple at times. And I know there's a lot more going on around it, but at the end of the day, it's just like you got to give yourself the best opportunity to win. And some of these stupid mistakes are not doing that. Yeah, I mean, these are multiple games where the result is different and very positive for us if we just make, keep our head in the game a little bit more and make a smarter decision here or there. If we could start playing cleaner games where there's less of these moments, our chances only improve. Yeah, and it's as you just said, which is the point we always make, which is, the Bundesliga is unequal. Not every team's the same. Some teams are going to be better than you, and if they come in and play beautiful football and tear you apart, hats off to them. It's not fun to watch a game like that, but when the team is that good and the goals they're scoring are good goals, there's not a whole lot you can be upset with. You just have to kind of accept like where you are. And yeah, these kind of things against bottom table opponents, stupid mistakes, that's not what we're talking about there. It's different, and that needs to be corrected. But the good news is the things outside of those moments and around that are improving. And the defense certainly better, right? Stuttgart only concede 1. Mainz you concede the 2, but not from open play. Yeah. You don't. So that's strong as well after the poorest defensive start we had to the season.
So a friend of the show, Cedric Zelmat, he's a Schalke YouTuber. He's going to be doing his Baum assessment so far this season, through 5 games, whatever they've played so far under him. How would your assessment be of Baum, for the first handful of games that he's been manager? Positives, negatives, what is your overall takeaway from this?
Yeah, fairly positive. He came in with sort of the reputation of being a slightly more tactical manager than David Wagner, and I think to some extent it's difficult to parse some of that out given the state the team was in. I think in some ways it's a lot of getting back to basics and just kind of psychology and changing the mentality to some extent. But I do think we look more organized defensively, like I just said, offensively as well. And slowly, but these are incremental gains. And I understand there's a lot of Schalke fans that are saying, cool, but we still haven't won a game. So what does this matter? And you guys are really setting a low bar here. And I get that. I don't like setting a low bar as a Schalke supporter, but when you have this kind of winless streak, you got to take whatever you can get. And I do feel like we have seen consistently over the past couple matches now, post international break, that the team has a little bit more belief and more structure, and it's slowly coming together. Is all I'm going to say.
Garrett says,
I think it's positive.
Yeah. Okay. Before I get into my points, I'm going to say Garrett says, agreed to a point. VAR is not helping our cause in a lot of the penalty situations so far. Guntercock but for penalty, it is not a foul, or it's got to be a foul. I agree with that. It's been we needed to stop giving away stupid penalties and don't leave it up to VAR. If you do your job, keep it simple and just clear stuff out. Don't try. If you're going to go for a header, you got to be mindful of your arms because they're catching everything this year, especially with Schalke. So you just got to be smarter about it, really. My overall assessment of Baum was pretty much spot on with you. I think we thought he was going to be a more tactical person, like you said, and he has shown that. And I like the formations that he's using. He's trying to use Mascarell as really the main pivot, and at times there's a double pivot there. But what we've seen going into the attack, there's been a lot more options. We've gotten actually shots in games. I think this game against Mainz, we had 21 shots or something. I don't think we had 21 shots, the prior 5 games before. So yeah, it's coming along. And granted, Mainz is the bottom of the table, but you got to still perform. The way they reacted against going down against Schweinfurt, 4th division team, or going down, twice to Mainz, they fought back. They played very well, I thought, against Stuttgart and had the lead in that game for a good chunks of that game before giving away another penalty. So there's a lot of good stuff in there. And I think, considering he only had 2 days of training before the Leipzig match, and then the fragility of the team's psyche can be understated or overstated, because we've seen the team psychologist on the pitch with them in practice, trying to figure what to do just to get them the right mind frame. And we've seen that with the fight in the last couple of games that it's starting to get better. Is there talent? Are they talented enough to win the Bundesliga? No. But are they a relegation team? I don't think so. With their psyche, yes. But if they don't fix that part and don't fix the simple things defensively in the midfield, it's going to be a long season. It's going to be a long season no matter what. But I think what Baum has brought has been really positive stuff, small, but you got to take for what it's worth at this moment. And any point we can get at this moment to start build momentum, and momentum is the key, I think, with confidence. And we'll see with this international break how we come out against Wolfsburg.
Yeah. There's been times when we've been in these bad runs of form where you look at the squad and you're going like, this collection of players is too good to be playing this badly. Yeah. Like, 'cause some of the football we've played it's just non-football. It's not fun to watch. And it's just so inept. And you wonder like how that's possible given, I'm not saying we have the greatest squad on the planet, but yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think you look at it and you're like, this is not a relegation squad. So what's going on? I think the psychology is a huge part of it. Sometimes when you're stuck in these cycles, it's just hard to break out. And that's what I was trying to say. Like, the last time we had a podcast out, is like, yeah, I think David Wagner needed to go just because nothing was changing. But, whose fault is it that nothing's changing? Certainly David Wagner's to some extent. But to what extent is it the player's fault? To what extent they need to step up and that kind of thing. And, the coaching change gives you an opportunity to reset and hope those things stick and start to improve. And I think we've seen that. And once again, small sample size, but just an example from the Stuttgart game and the Mainz game. And once again, I understand that Mainz is not a good, that quality of an opponent. But, early in the season, the only times we had the ball in the final third is when it's a long ball that's dumped into a striker with no support from anybody in it, and that's kind of what happens. It's the go Robbie go tactics, right? And Stuttgart, and then in this Mainz game as well, you weren't seeing that. You were seeing Bastian Oczipka getting high, Skripski getting high, Kilian Ludwig getting high, playing crosses, and you're seeing 5, 6, 7 people in the final third at once possessing the ball and poking and prodding it, and that's certainly on the right track and definitely a positive, because early in the season, it's just that's something you never saw. I mean, we were never in the final third with any significant numbers or anything, and that's the way we're building up and approaching getting there is certainly better. Yeah. Oh,
I dropped my phone. Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. And I think the way we've played at times, even recently, we kind of do look like a relegation team at times, right? It shouldn't be. We shouldn't be for what team has had, but it doesn't make sense really how some of the guys are. And Garrett's saying that he kind of wishing that Bentaleb would pull his head out of his ass. That guy has so much potential. I mean, yeah, and
we agree.
With him, we think with him, while we love the talent he has, at times he is freaking brilliant. But then he is this. It's a mental thing where he's just not playing to his potential and does something silly. Or in some of the past recent games that he's played, he's been non-existent whatsoever. I mean, non-existent.
Richard, I think you would probably agree with me. To Gert's point here, Gert's point. I don't think there's a player. Richard, did I lose you?
No, I'm still here. Lost the camera.
Okay, camera down. Don't worry. I don't think there's a player that you or I would like to interview more than Nabil Bentaleb.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to see. I mean, I don't think we're gonna get that opportunity, especially to ask him the kind of questions we'd like to ask him. But I think if there's any player we'd like to pick their brain and to figure out what's going on with them and what's going on with the club, it would be Bentaleb, because I agree. I think a lot of Schalke supporters do as well. At his best, he's certainly top 3 player on the squad, you would think, in terms of the potential he has, and we just don't see it. Don't see it enough. And yeah, maybe rotations, for fitness is a thing with the COVID schedules and everything. Maybe Manuel Baum's trying to, give everyone an opportunity and see what he has. But you would expect with the players we have on the squad for Bentaleb to be consistently picked. And so if this kind of thing continues throughout the season where, Alessandro Schupf is getting central midfield minutes over Bentaleb, that is not a good sign and not a good reflection on Bentaleb himself. So we'll see. But yeah, I hope he gets his head out of his who knows what's going on. But yeah, I agree.
Since we're talking about players who are not playing to the potential, and maybe I'm a lone person on this, but I think Harit's been playing really poor this season. At times he's back to himself, but for the most part, he's giving the ball away. He's trying to go one-on-one and he's falling down more than he needs to. I think, in the past when he's been going down, it's because guys have chopped him down because he's playing so freaking brilliant. I think lately, and maybe it's a tribute to the rest of the team being poor, but he has not looked good at all at times. And there's some moment of brilliance in the game, but there's more bad than good, I think, over the last, I don't know, 3-4 games at least with him. Could be the whole season, but I'm just talking about the last 3-4 games. Have you seen the same thing, or what are you seeing out of Harit?
Yeah, I would agree. I think I mentioned after maybe it wasn't the Stuttgart game because we didn't pod after the Stuttgart. I'm forgetting like when I said certain things in the past, but I did feel that there was some performances where it seemed like Harit was very bought into his defensive responsibilities
right.
off the ball, which to me is a very good sign because, as I've said, I feel like he disengages very easily. So that was good. I do agree though that like, you know, the peak Harit that we've seen, particularly offensively, has not been there. Some misplayed passes, some poor decisions. But I do think ultimately it probably isn't a bad thing if Harit isn't the focal point of our offense. I think Harit is the kind of player who, at this point in time, given his inconsistencies, is kind of a luxury player. And to the extent that you can draw the defense's attention elsewhere and then have him come up with a moment of brilliance and catch people off guard because he has that kind of ability, maybe that's the way forward for him. But
having Serdar back is going to be huge, especially if he's back to kind of what we remembered him to be. He can draw some of the attention, then maybe Harit can feed off of that and then expose some of the defenses. Then really they're going to have to focus on one of those two, or, you know, whomever. And then maybe Mark Uth will be free more, you know, who knows?
For sure. But, you know, in the absence of you know, top tier offensive contributions from Harit, he does have to do the other stuff well to kind of justify his spot in a central midfield role. And so, that is something to keep an eye on, I think, going forward, is how he's doing.
Jake is saying about Baum, he's brought simplicity and steadiness in the style of play. Taking a couple of league wins in a row would change the team drastically, and I agree 100% about that. Garrett is in agreement as well. He said Baum is on it in a good way. Looking at the standings so far, we played 6 of the 9 best teams in the league. And I mean, that's a difficult gauntlet. We thought it was going to be a gauntlet to start off because we had the big three, but you look at the teams we played, it's 6 of 9 best, and we still got, I think, Leverkusen on the horizon and another big team. We're not out of the league yet. The whole league is difficult.
Like, I don't want people to think that we're in denial about the fact that we're not, you know, saying the sky is falling, that we're going to get relegated yet. Like, you and I have been saying this for months. We knew the season was going to start off this way. Yep. We questioned preseason, is David Wagner still the manager after 5 games? We weren't convinced he was going to be, and he wasn't ultimately. Like, you have to give Baum time to turn it around. We expected the beginning of the season to kind of go this badly, and as long as we do start picking up a couple wins, and you know, get a little bit of space between the bottom of the table where we are, I think that's what you can expect from this team this season. Yeah. You know, bottom half of the table, hopefully closer to mid-table than, you know, relegation, but we'll see. I'm still keeping an open mind and kind of seeing how things play out. I'm not in panic mode yet. And like I said, you have to afford Baum that opportunity. Now, if we get 3 or 4 matches post international break here and we're kind of at the same level still, you know, then maybe we have that conversation again and we say, you know, we're not really seeing what we need to see and we need to get worried, but still plenty of games to be played.
Well, it seems like maybe someone isn't in panic mode already. Sean Hardman on Twitter sent this message, and I know how we're going to react. I'm curious how Jake and Gerd and some of the people in the chat are going to react. But he says this on Twitter: if the club were to be relegated this season, what roster and management ramifications do you foresee? What would be a reasonable timetable for the club to right itself and return to Bundesliga? So for the first part of that, I think obviously Schneider's going to be gone. Maybe Jobs. It's going to be a big change in the management, I think. We're probably going to look at, you know, they've been talking about changing to 50+1 and maybe shifting a little bit to bring in more money. You probably see something like that. I'm sure some of our better players be gone, you know, Harit, some of these other guys. But the point I want to make of the second part is a reasonable timetable for us is different from reasonable timetable of what is actually going to happen. A reasonable timetable for us is like, oh, you know, they go down for a year, get their shit together, come back up, and we're back to we're in the middle of the pack, you know, fighting for your European spot. And honestly, reasonable expectation is that they're going to go down there for 3 to 5 years. I mean, as good as the fight the Bundesliga is, and they're going to have to really work on the youth program to really develop those players through the senior team to get them back to a chance to move up, because they're not going to have any money to buy any players unless it's free players like Ibisevic. So it's the relegation is not a promising thing that you would want by any stretch, because that's how good this fight the Bundesliga is. Ask Kaiserslautern, where have they been for the last 10, 15 years?
I've been seeing people say this with increasing regularity over the last couple of months. Is like, you know, maybe it'd be a good thing if we got relegated so we could just regroup. what? Like, I mean, no, I disagree. I mean, it's not. Yeah, you just bounce right back up. I think some people are looking at like Aston Villa in the Premier League and being like, yeah, you'll just get promoted and then be top of the table. That's
50 million euros.
Yeah, and Villa was, down for a couple of years. I mean, it's not easy to bounce right back up. The club's in massive financial trouble. You go to the Zweite Bundesliga, that revenue share goes down, I would imagine. I don't know the numbers in front of me, but broadcast rights, all that kind of stuff. That's not going to help us financially at all. Name a player on the squad that you like right now. They're not there. No. I mean, they're gone. I mean, pick a player. Like, they're not here. Yeah, I mean, if you think some of these guys are going to stick around for that, I mean, not even if they want to, it's just financial realities are not going to allow that from a contract perspective. But yeah, so I disagree. I don't think the question was it saying that it was a good thing. The question was, yeah. But I think the ramifications would be awful. I mean, I think the squad dramatically changes, and I think there's significant financial risk in that as well, given how precarious of a position we're in right now.
We're going to be a far younger team if that were to happen. Is because we're going to have to rely solely on the Knappen to get we might have to use all of them to be in the starting 11. Who knows? But
Schalke 2 becomes Schalke first team. Yeah,
exactly. Garrett says if we get relegated, it'll be years before we make the comeback. Look at Bielefeld's journey. So yeah, exactly. It's Zweite Bundesliga is difficult. Hamburg is still finding that out right now. St. Pauli, we haven't seen them forever. It's a difficult fight. I mean, teams like Union Berlin, their first time in the Bundesliga recently, they've had some good squads as well. So it's not going to be easy by any stretch. And so hopefully we don't get down that road. I think the way Baum is leading the club at the moment is in the right direction. We just need to get some wins. Like the guys in the chat are saying, it's like if we get a win or two here, we can build momentum off of that, especially if we can knock off somebody that we're not expected to, maybe like a Wolfsburg or someone like that. It would go a long way. And if we get some of these strikers getting these goals more and more, see Serdar back and stuff like that, stop making stupid mistakes defensively, I think there's opportunity there. So, but we got the international break here. We got the Pokal match in between as well. So, yeah.
I really hope Suat Serdar can figure out his injury issues, man, because it's been, I feel so bad for the kid.
We need to baby him.
He's also just like more consistent than Harit is, in my opinion. And, if we could have him consistently getting selected, that'd be huge for us. It's the last point I make about the relegation thing is just like, there was a situation. Remember when Jurgen Klopp was still at Dortmund?
Yep.
And they randomly had that season where they started off like losing like 5 games in a row or something and were in trouble for a while. Like, let's say Dortmund had gotten relegated that season. The financial situation and sort of the general state of the team that they were in at that moment, like you would have said like, yeah, they're going to bounce right back. That's a different situation from where we are right now. Like you could totally see that. Like, I don't want to be doom and gloom, and I to be fair, I don't really know enough details to know what I'm talking about here. But like, you could see us getting relegated, and then because of the financial situation, like this spiraling and us going down to like the 3rd division or like becoming insolvent, something in crate. Like we need to do everything we can to steady the ship and then just go onward from where we are. We don't need to go down levels and get down that whole rabbit hole. I think that's disastrous.
Yeah, I think if we were in great financial situation and had all the money in the world to spend and we got relegated, okay, I think we bounce right back up. But because we could spend some money and get some lower league players and move up, but we don't. We're going to be selling players. It's something we don't want. Trust us, you do not want to get relegated by any stretch. So, but Jack, it's been an hour. We've been talking this good chat here, I think here. So, but let's wrap this one up. Unless you got something else you want to chat about.
No, I think I've put forward enough bad, unpopular, and possibly wrong opinions on this podcast for one night tonight. We've disagreed quite a bit. Not just you and me, but me and the general larger Schalke internet audience. So
yeah.
There you go.
No, it's good stuff though. Good stuff. If you haven't done so yet, make sure you sign up for the Schalke US newsletter. Just simply put in your email and you will get them once a month. And also, if you're not a member yet, you should be. You should get get your Chrysler magazine every month. Some good stuff there. And then you obviously get a nice little flag like I do in the back here, huh, Jack? You got one as well. All right, keep tuning in each week as we bring you the latest from the Royal Blues. Every week. Maybe we'll try to keep it more often, more consistent that way going forward. We want to thank Schalke and all our followers for providing tidbits for our podcast tonight. Those on the chat, thank you so much for joining in and chatting with us. We really enjoyed the conversation. If there are any topics you would like us to discuss or guests we should bring on, send us a tweet at SchalkeMerica. Jack, where can our followers find you on social media?
At JM Mangan, JMMANGAN on Twitter.
Very good. And I am your host, Richard Kharman. You can find me at R_KHARMAN. Until the next episode comes, my friend, stay ready, and we'll be with you soon. Tschüss.